a couple things. See if I can. Something's going on here. Where this house, the property that I'm at, is located, is off of Mamaloa Highway, just above the highway, which would be on the south side of Mamaloa Highway. A little bit up, maybe a half a mile up the road on Homestead Road, which is Kahalani Homestead Road. And so the owner here wanted to put a fence in. So the gardener that does the yard here put the fence in, right? So when you come off the road, the paved road, onto the property here, it's primarily grass and soil, mineral soil. And so when you come in, it's sort of straight, and then it's got like a little bit of a hump to it, It's not perfectly flat on the horizontal, perfectly balanced, right? With a cross, vertical, going north and south and east and west. It's got a little bit of a hump to it. So this morning, when I open up the gate for a vehicle to come in that picks up seniors and runs them into Hilo, to go to doctor's appointments, get groceries, whatever you need, right? They'll run you around for the day. Well, when I open up the gate, on the north side of the gate, it swings. So I swung it back, towards the house rather than towards the street, okay? And it was able to swing, which means there was enough separation between the lower part of the lower bar on the horizontal as it was on the lower side, which was the dirt side, which means it was enough clearance, which means it was enough tolerance, right, that I didn't have to cut any dirt away in order to be able to move the gate back, in order for the vehicle, right, to get through. When we come back, they can pull right on in. And then the other side of the gate, which would be on the south side gate, moves up, and I put a rock to hold it in place. So this is what happened. When we got back, okay, the gate was now, instead of being on the other side, back towards the house, was now swung completely around. But here's the kicker. Here's a little. This is cool. When we pulled up, right, he got out of the vehicle, and because the gate had swung the other way, there wasn't enough room to get through just on the one side because the vehicle's pretty large. So what he did is he moved the gate and went back so that he could pull through. Okay. Now, what happened is that when he left, and I went back about an hour later to go lock the gate back up, okay, you wouldn't believe what I had to go through in order to move the gate where it was against the house side, in order to get it back to where it originally was this morning when it was locked before I opened it up. What that means is that the ground, okay, the elevation of the ground had moved up vertical to the extent of about 4 or 5 inches. And it took quite a bit to lift the whole gate up just to be able to get it back so that I could close the gate and lock it with the other side coming back the other way. You know what deformation is, right? Atmospheric pressures. And so, this is a big rock here, volcanic, it's with an active volcano here, yeah. And so aside from that, I was just going to share, what was the other thing I was going to share? Oh, yeah, Terence McKenna. Terence McKenna, I picked up a book of his, so it's no coincidence why I was map reading what he had to say when he was here, because he spent a lot of time in botanicals, electrical plants, musical plants, and he was into art, which means creation, creative energy. And so he was associating with what he could consider to be the development of the human animal and how we relate to Earth, everything that is alive and living in creation, in nature. So he was like a naturalist. So he spent a lot of time in the shamanic side of things. Spent a lot of time in the Amazonian basin with the Indians down there, ayahuasca, the Mexican people that work with a lot of peyote, right? And what's the other step? Mescaline. So he spent a lot of time doing research and experimenting by virtue of experiencing psychedelics. So he wrote a book that I picked up, and it's called The End of History, and the rebirth of mama. So you know how to build a motherboard, right? The body parts, right? Open up the temples, healing earth. And so I just, the AI presented something to me because the AI knows I love Terrence McKenna, and put a video in of something that Terrence McKenna had talked about when I was listening to him speak. And it said, you realize that human history, the end of human history, we're headed for a meltdown, which means we're either going to go one of two directions. We're either going to completely go extinct, which means we're not going to get reseeded again. We were a complete failure. The DNA represented by humans was a failure. It could not recover itself. So it's like, and so he talked about this in terms of using called a midpoint, Midgard. Oh, didn't I hear somebody by the name of Kim Go-Goon talk about Midgard? So what is Midgard? Okay, I'm non-polarized consciousness. I'm fully integrated. I'm monad. Okay? And what that essentially means is that I refuse to hold one electron captive, ever. So I experience no mass. Yeah? So you understand what the flashlight sequences are in terms of speed to run codes, to run mathematical language, right? Because you're running a full chip, a monopole chip. So you're collecting by virtue of experiencing what all the data is informing us of, right? And so you can run a complete data analysis of why it broke, right? System failure, system failure, system failure, system failure, system failure. So it's like they called up tech support of the universe as a universal service organization, you know, because all the lights are going off. Breaking circuits, breaking circuits, breaking circuits, breaking circuits. We need tech support down here. So they got to know something about motherboards. Yeah. And so when he mentioned the midpoint, well, when you deal with polarity and alternating electrical currents, right, on the horizontal and the vertical, you have the center point of a cell. Just like you have I use examples that are common to people's experiences that allows that information through a server to be able to connect how this works. When you think of Midgard, the end of history, the rebirth of Mama, right? The higher octave side, the goddess side of the cosmos, right? When you think of magnets and polarity and electrical current. So in this particular case, he said, yeah, we're at the midway point. Which is it? So I was listening to a video this morning that Ashiana had talked about, right? That our ability to recover ourselves, rehab, yeah, restoring fragments, and information that I knew about when it comes to seeded races and races that aren't going to get reseeded, stuff like that. Those that are in the know are in the know. And why is that? Because of what the data informs us of. Right? Particularly at the cosmic level. Cosmic level doors. Cosmic level spirit. Cosmina. Cosmaya. Manu Ira. Like in Ireland. Like in Tara. Like in Sophia. Yeah. Gaia Sophia. I'm a pink rose. The diamond door. The heart crystal key code of pink. Open it up. Right? Open up the temples. Ecosphere. Ecospheres. Echo worlds. And so when he was talking about the midway point, well, the center point of a cell, just like the center point of a cartridge, go down to any Army Navy store or any gun shop and say, hey, I want some center fire cartridges, right? So when you look at a rifle or a standard 6-shooter, right? You have the little pin, a little tiny ball, a ball like a sphere, which is on the hammer. And what does it do? It hits a cap, right? So it hits the cap like a cap space, like capacitor. And as soon as it hits, it ignites a charge, right? Hey, there it goes. Velocity, foot pounds, like atmospheric pounds per square inch. Surface tension. Yeah. Tension in nerves. The nerve is tension. No tension in the nerves. None. Totally relaxed between the polarities. Right? So you know what a polarity drama is, right? Between negative and positive ions. right? They're not in perfect balance. Which why? Because of sharing, right? When the girl and the boy, the twin spirits, want to share equally to do a dance together, look out for each other, right? So there are times in which I experience more of the male side, and the mother side kicks my butt. Remind me, you're the flower just as much as the seed, because we're one. And so you see how that dance goes on a strip, like an EKG strip, right? Your graphical model user interface, your record, right? Looks like an off-road course between density and dimension. I call it Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Ever been to Disneyland? I've been on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride? Disney. Yeah, I'm very familiar with Walt Disney and Disneyland. I have done a couple of videos on body snatchers, children kidnapping, and provided data on that, actually. Provided a lot of data, which is one of the reasons why I was where I was at when I was at, because of the amount of our ability spit in data to collect the data between density and dimension. What's happening? Upload the data. Now they know what's going on at that location. Right? I'm like an on-scene investigator doing a damage assessment, right? How bad did it get down here? So it's just like a fire investigator when a massive wildland fire is taking out 1,000 homes, right? And so they want to call in an investigator. So you got to jump in a uniform. Now I'm an investigator. I'm wearing an all-blue uniform. Got a little badge on here. It says fire investigator. Because what are you looking for? The point of origin. Where did this problem begin? Right? So that we don't repeat errors, which are error codes, and systems building, which is network building, which is universe building. Right? Where do we go wrong? You need the data. Yeah. That requires a full data analysis. Anybody that works in mathematics and does research knows with a null hypothesis, you want to do everything you can to prove that asking simple questions, right? Remember what Ashiana talked about, a control group with competition? Control. Not wanting to share. Now we're back to polarity dramas. Why? Being fully integrated. Okay. Why don't they want to give up every single electron to be a multiversal server? What do you think? What do you think control is born out of? Fear of letting go of every unit of energy that is used in service. So now you can think of the first server, the first volcano, and an eternal engine. Because you know the first engine doesn't hold on to electrons. So when you want to be fused with the first engine, then you want to let go of every electron. Next thing you know, oh, are you fused and mated all right? Why? Because you can't fool the one. It knows, the one knows, the universe of consciousness knows whether or not you're willing to give up every electron. If you're choosing to hold on one electron, you will not light yourself on fire to experience eternal spirit of fire. Okay? And you get mated, which means you found your gender twin. Hey, I've been mated. And once that happens, the door's shut. Which means now there is no question over what you are as energy, as an energy identity. Right? Which means they can't change your mind anymore. You're always in service, which means we're always on the job, which is why I don't need a contract. I'm a volunteer. I volunteer to serve, right? Which means you don't have to pay me. I do not need any energy in order for me to get a phone call. We need you down here to help perform a job. Okay, that's cool. Where you at? Like that. Fire engine number one, firehouse number one, which is called central point, which is center point of origin, which is what they call Midgard. Heaven's Gate. Yeah. So they're gate crashers. That's what they do. They crash gates. You know what an intruder is, right? Penetrators. And so that's why we're here, right? Everybody's doing a job, and that's why I push pink, bare feet on the ground, right? Connected to the core, mama's core. Growing pink with that sun, working with that sun every day. Yeah, and so I love Terrence McKenna. If you ever get a chance, go take a look at a couple of his videos. He's a very provocative unit of energy, communicating with us in the English language what he's learned over time-space vectors, right? Of the book that he wrote called "The End of History and the Rebirth of Mama." That means he got the speed memo. He figured it out, and he did it in a rather short period of time. Because I think he passed away in the early 2000s. I don't even think he was 60 years of age when he passed away. And that's a flash in the pan, yeah? So anyway, y'all have a great afternoon. I love y'all. Be good to yourselves.